Nos encontramos en esta ocasión desde el Hub de Turismo Regenerativo, alojado en el CIDETUR de la Escuela de Economía y Negocios de la Universidad Nacional de San Martín, con la intención de encontrarnos para realizar este ciclo de entrevistas que hemos decidido comenzar a trabajar con la finalidad de dar a conocer, difundir nuestro trabajo y aquello que se viene realizando, haciendo, investigando en el resto del mundo. En esta ocasión tenemos la enorme dicha de contar con dos referentes internacionales de amplísima trayectoria, como es el caso de Loretta Belliato y de Stefan Lassig. Es así, Carlos, ¿no? Contanos acerca de nuestros invitados y la propuesta de la entrevista de hoy.
Bueno, gracias, Ro. Darle la bienvenida y efectivamente el día de hoy tenemos dos invitados que encontramos, son un referente, como decías tú bien, mundial en términos de investigación y de publicación también en torno al turismo regenerativo. Loretta tiene una amplia trayectoria investigando y desarrollando toda la parte que es cómo se ha llevado el turismo regenerativo a la práctica. Ella se nos suma desde Australia, así que ya vamos a tener oportunidad de escuchar desde primera mano un poco cómo ella aborda este tema y algunas cosas que yo creo que son muy interesantes para ir entrando en comprender la profundidad que tiene este enfoque. Y por otro lado, Stefan, que está en Italia, desde la Universidad de Polonia, donde también tiene toda una trayectoria en el marco teórico, en el desarrollo también y el entendimiento del turismo regenerativo desde esta mirada más europea. Entonces, nos parece una tremenda oportunidad. Esto es lo que queremos hacer en el Hub, crear un espacio de encuentro, un espacio de colaboración, donde podemos compartir recursos, donde distintos investigadores de todo el mundo puedan acercarse para explorar potenciales colaboraciones, explorar quizás de manera creativa cómo es que podemos ir desenvolviendo esta temática desde la Academia del Turismo Regenerativo. Así que los invitamos a compartir esta entrevista en este ciclo de conversaciones sobre turismo regenerativo.
Así es, los invito entonces a escucharlos, a Carlos, a Loretta y Stefan, contarles que la entrevista está realizada íntegramente en inglés, pero subtitulada en español, con la intención de llegar a la mayor cantidad de gente posible, al público tanto nacional, latinoamericano como internacional. Así que los invito a verla y espero que la disfruten. Muchas gracias.
It's a privilege, as I mentioned, to have you both here. For me, top researchers in this field, also incredible persons that I have the privilege to know. So the idea is just I'm going to set some questions and that we can unfold this topic, this approach of regenerative tourism in a way that we can share it with the world and see how, from your perspectives, you see this approach relevant. So in that context, the first question for you, Loretta, will be, why do you think or why for you is relevant to study and work in tourism from this particular perspective of regenerative tourism?
Thanks for the question and for having me on the podcast. And so I'm Loretta Belliato from Swinburne University in Australia. And for me, why it's relevant for me is that I've come from working for many years as a practitioner in the community, working mainly with people who are marginalised from society. And I lived in Cambodia for a couple of years working in development there, and I came across the tourism sector and saw its potential for alleviating poverty and for changing the lives of communities and places. And so that really got me intrigued. But when I started looking for approaches to tourism that could really achieve that goal, I felt really dissatisfied, and I actually did a master's of sustainable tourism. But at the end of that, I concluded that the sustainable tourism approach for me wasn't working well enough. It definitely makes quite significant contributions to promoting the health and well-being of communities and places, but it's still too focused on promoting growth, and the result is that only few people are gaining benefits from tourism relatively, and there's still too much social and environmental harm. And so I started looking for alternatives, and one of the things that I found when I was doing my master's research was that I identified that Indigenous communities hold knowledges and are taking approaches to tourism development that are often overlooked, and that often Indigenous people are excluded from tourism planning. And I also came across the concept of regenerative development as part of that research, and that became really intriguing to me. And the reason why I really, I suppose, became interested in regenerative development or regenerative approaches to tourism development is that it's a much more holistic way of seeing the world and understanding the places we're working, visiting, playing in. And the thing that really got me engaged from the very start was this idea of potential. So rather than taking approaches where we're trying to find all the different problems and then having solutions to each of those, potential really focuses on the uniqueness of the whole and what could be created. And so that starts to turn the mind towards creating possibilities. The other thing that I really love about this approach is that it has been led by practitioners such as yourself, Carlos, who I consider to be one of the leaders in this work and who I've learned much from. And that really opens us up to having more transdisciplinary approaches where it's not just academics that are creating knowledge. It's actually coming from the practitioners, it's coming from communities, it's all of us coming together and working together. And that there's no one solution to this. The approaches to regenerative tourism come from each and every unique place and community. And so there's no cookie cutter approach. It's actually about working from the true potential of each and every place. And so this means that there's infinite possibility, and it just feels like it's a rich well of amazing opportunity. And so that's why I'm doing research in this area. And I suppose the other one thing I'll say is that I've seen, which I'll talk a bit about later, but I've seen many examples of where this approach has been implemented in a way that's had really positive impacts for those communities and places, but also for the tourism operators.
Excellent. Thanks, Loretta. Beautiful. When we are approaching to regeneration, we can often hear the idea that regeneration is arising as a new possibility to design possible futures, no? And this comes with the idea of a paradigm shift, that maybe we have to rethink the way we see the world, and of course that we see development and many issues of the current society. In that sense, Stefan, why do you think, or do you consider it's necessary to change, like the status quo, the economic focus in the world today?
Hello, Carlos, and hello, everyone, and thanks for having me here on this call. Yeah, your question is quite, broad, and we can speak so much about that, but let's try to summarize. The fact is that the current economic and tourism also models for decades have been rooted in extractive paradigms of neoliberal capitalism, and they prioritize exponential growth. And this model treats nature primarily as a source to serve human activities and to create financial outcomes. And in context of tourism, we have seen that it leads to creation of quantitative indicators that are primarily measured in financial sense, and are used for continuous growth, as that was seen as the primary goal of tourism development. So over time, this model, as we have seen, has generated various issues around the world, and those the effects of those issues, unfortunately, we are seeing now worldwide. Moreover, these issues have now been accompanied with diverse crises that exist in the world. So naturally now it is requiring or showing the urgent need for alternative models that can go beyond merely addressing, isolated problems, and therefore need to provide an approach that can transform the entire system. Therefore, current efforts that are suggested are simply insufficient to achieve this shift, and that's why we speak, or we are researching comprehensive ways that can provide this transformation. So, a fundamentally different approach comes from regenerative paradigm. It definitely challenges the current economic and also tourism settings. It emphasizes the shifting the purpose of tourism activity towards a values-based approach, one that can prioritize the well-being and the health both of people and natural environment, rather than just focusing on financial gains. This perspective also views nature not as just endless resource for a human exploitation, but is essential system in which all tourism activity happens, and also all life exists. So consequently, tourism should give back to this natural system, and should try to enhance its health and overall life conditions. Of course, it doesn't mean that tourism that is developed through regenerative approach should not be financially sustainable, but simply that regenerative tourism creates activities that generate value at multiple levels, benefiting so individuals, communities, society, and nature on the whole. And in the end, it is as we say, that economy should be adapted to natural boundaries or embedded in it, and support, therefore, society and nature, and shouldn't be the other way around. So regenerative tourism is not simply a tourism activity or a product. It is a way of conceptualizing tourism design and development. So it begins from envisioning what it means to host and receive guests in a certain location, or as some of the most important relevant authors in this paradigm say, understand what kind of tourism can we develop in each place and understand the potential of each of those places. This approach is inherently collective and collaborative, meaning that local communities are those who play a crucial role in shaping and developing tourism that is also based on those unique settings of every context. Tourism that is developed through regenerative approaches based on this systemic perspective, meaning that we see how tourism is connected with various other activities in a community or economy, and how it also links to other spheres of social life. Of course, it also works on this connection between humans and nature and establishment of mutually beneficial relationships. Another challenge that also comes from this approach is to move away from a purely, consumeristic or materialistic outlook of tourism, and so that experiences represent meaningful and slow encounters between hosts and guests, in which it is also possible to inspire people to engage first with themselves, then with others, and the natural environment, so promoting awareness of the multi-scale nature of tourism activities.